And we're ready.
Awesome. So we are going to call to order the meeting of the Oconee County Public Library Board of Trustees for Tuesday, March 23rd. Our first order of business is the approval of minutes. Blair sent out the minutes from our January 26th meeting for review. So if we have a motion to approve as were presented by Blair.
So move. Second.
Perfect. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Blair, the minutes are approved. And we now have an option for public comment, and I think Carol may be going to speak during this portion.
Yes, ma'am. To be respectful of Mr. Kyle's time, rather than waiting until later in the meeting where we talk about the thing on the agenda about the new parking, staff parking in Walhalla, I want to go ahead and allow him to, if it's okay with you all, to present to us briefly during the public comment time, so I can go ahead and let him go. So with that, Kyle, if you can just step up to the podium and the mic will get you. This is Kyle Reed. He's the head of the Roads and Bridges Department for Oconee County.
Yeah, just a brief update on the parking adjacent to the Walhalla Library across Westview Drive. It's been a process. I know some of you have been on and some of you haven't. Some of you have been made aware through, I'm sure, updates from Blair. But I wanted to come and let y'all know what progress has been made, kind of what happened, where it happened, because as I understand, there's a lot of new members on the board. So I think this started back in 2018, I believe. We started discussing it in earnest about the parking lot and that kind of stuff. Started looking at what options we had as far as which road we were tie into, how much parking, all those things. Subsequently, hired an engineer to look at the parking, drainage, those sorts of things, and came up with a tie-in off of Chestnut. Ran it through with various different agencies. When the impact actually to the trees along Chestnut came back, and most of those trees, pretty much all of those trees, would have to be removed down to the stop sign for sight distance concerns, it kind of got put on a screeching halt as far as that goes. The DOT didn't want us to come on to Westview because of drainage, additional stormwater runoff going into Westview. Subsequently, tornadoes, hurricanes, and floods happened. Got to pick it back up kind of in the fall of 19, and talked with the DOT, kind of worked that through with a new gentleman that had taken over the encroachment permit portion of it, and they are looking at now allowing us to come on to Westview, which would be much more advantageous for everybody as far as the trees, as far as ingress and egress to the library staff, any events that would be happening over there, that kind of stuff. There's still some things that would have to be put in as far as the breakdowns for the sidewalks, for handicap access, those sorts of things. So that's what we're working through right now, making sure that so when it comes in, if you come up Westview from the backside of the library, that first entrance into the parking lot where all the handicap parking is along that front line, that would be adjacent to the new driveway. There will be a crosswalk coming from there. There's going to have to be a breakdown, ADA ramp breakdown at that sidewalk, trying to see if we've got room because there's a catch basin there, and seeing if it logistically would work to fit it in there. That's really the best option, and that's really the more prudent place to put it, because that's where staff would come, walk up the steps, those sort of things. So that's kind of where we're at now, is working through, can we actually put in a ramp there? I know it's been a lot of time. For that, I'm sorry on my end to not push it forward faster. But that's where we are. If y'all had any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Is there a timeline?
Not as of yet. Still being looked at by the engineer as far as that goes, and then it'll have to go back through the DOT, and then I can tell you from other encroachment permits I put in, nothing slowed down for them. All the encroachment permits from Greenville, Spartanburg, Oconee, and Pickens goes to one office. All the commercial encroachments. So, and there's like just a handful of people in that department to get permits approved. So as far as the permitting goes, I'm not real sure. Hopefully it will be, if I had to hazard a guess, hopefully it would be by this summer, being able to construct the parking lot. And then that'll be based on our time if we have another tornado, because we're looking at doing the work in-house as much as we can. We don't do as much of the concrete work, the ADA stuff, and that would have to be subbed out. But as far as grading and doing the gravel for the parking lot and stuff like that, then that would be the road, excuse me, the road department. So depending any natural disasters, hopefully this summer.
Quick question too on handicap accessibility in the parking lot there. Since we already have the parking lot attached to the library there, is it necessary to do the other parking lot as essentially just a staff parking lot, fully
No,
ADA
there
compliant?
may be some requirements as far as the parking spaces up front of the library to add, because when you add spaces, you add,
Right.
you have to, it's a ratio of handicap accessible parking to, regular standard parking. So there may be something added in. I don't think at this time that there's anything that looks like it'll be added in, but again, that'll be revisiting some of Walhalla's codes and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Any other questions? Okay, Kyle, thank you so much.
Yep.
We
It's a
appreciate
pleasure
it.
speaking with y'all. If y'all
Thank
have any other questions, like I said, my name's Kyle, and y'all can, Blair has my number.
I'll be getting more information out to you too. Kyle and I will be talking a little bit further about some of the details and everything about how we can move to next steps. So as soon as I have that information, I'll be getting it to you. We just wanted to kind of put it, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. For those of you that are new, we'll talk a little bit more about the history of this thing and everything when we get to that point in the agenda. But, just that way, I'll get in touch with Kyle and we'll get you a little bit more detail. I just wanted to put sort of a general update on the agenda tonight for you folks, so you kind of knew where we were. And, I had spoken with Kyle recently. We did another project down at the Seneca Library that I'll be telling you about during my director's report. So, just got a chance to talk to him for a few minutes and got new information, and he said he was willing to come and talk to you all, so I certainly wanted to take advantage of that. So Kyle, thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
for
y'all.
being
Y'all
here.
have a
Thanks,
good
Kyle.
evening.
Thank you.
I don't believe we have any additional public comments, so we will move to the Friends report. There was a Friends report submitted.
Okay, I had been in contact, Stephanie White is the new Friends president. Gene Mercer was the president until very recently, but has stepped away for a little bit, to go on an extended trip, and Stephanie White is currently the Friends president now. And I did get in touch with her, she sent me some information. You all may be familiar or may not be familiar, with the impact of COVID. Obviously, they quit having their normal monthly, every second Thursday book sale, okay? And they would have one once a quarter on Saturday, up here at the Walhalla Library. They had to quit doing that, of course, with COVID, but even during the time the library was closed down completely to the public from, March 17th till May 18th, they were working in small shifts so they could kind of stay spaced out, but they were working in the basement down at the Walhalla Library, on all of their collection, what they had, culling it out, getting, a lot of stuff cleaned up and everything. They had received a ton of donations. And so they managed to kind of slog through a lot of that backlog and get the place looking, quite honestly, spectacular, okay? And so what they first started doing, was having like a grab bag sale in the lobby. They would put 8 or 10 different books of various genres in a brown paper sack, staple it up, $3, put it out in our lobby. Once we were able to be open again, we reopened on June 15th of last year. And so that was what they were doing for a little while, and then they finally did start having sales by appointment. Now, beginning in March, they have now moved to every Thursday, 11 to 3:30, no appointment. They will limit the number of people that come in to 9 in the sale area at a time. Of course, they have to wear masks and, be in different rooms and all that kind of stuff. And the staff, there are some of them that are a little more comfortable or have now had their vaccine, or not staff, but the Friends staff, Friends volunteers. willing to kind of come back now. And so currently what they're doing, in addition to the bag sales, in addition to the sales that they have in M. Tannery and Sons, Books on the Alley, they call it on Ramcat, and the bag sales in the lobby and the regular lobby sales, which they still stock the shelves out there as well. They are also having a Thursday book sale now. They've talked about, it's not set in stone yet, but now that we have reopened the Walhalla branch on Saturdays from 9 to 1, they are looking at trying to have either a Saturday sale soon or a special sale for teachers or something like that. But to replace for the new members, to replace the money that they had lost over the period of the sales, Nancy Churchwell, who is their treasurer, actually applied for and received a CARES Act grant. So these businesses that were replacing lost income, Paycheck Protection Act, all that kind of stuff, she also was able to get it for a nonprofit. So they were able to replace a good chunk, $8,250, I think, or something like that. I forget what the exact amount was, but they were able to replace a pretty nice chunk of what they had lost in previous book sales. And then since they have been able to start having things again, the figures for January and February, they made $571.50 on their Thursday book sales. Lobby sales, and I believe this includes the bags and the individual books, pretty much everything's $3, but they have grab bags and then they have individual titles for $3. That made $428. The Seneca lobby, there is a very small little shelf in our Seneca library that they do actually sell from and do some good sales. That was about $33, and then Books on the Alley actually made them over $1,005.80. So all told for January and February, because we do all this bi-monthly, of course, being as our meetings are 6 months, 6 times a year, they $2,038.30, which, given all that's going on, we're thrilled. We're very thrilled, and of course, the library, by the way it all works, the library keeps half of what they make in the book sales. So for January, February, we got a little over $1,000 coming to us. Not too bad. By way of comparison, they usually made around $1,000 to around $1,400 a month in their previous sales. So they've really been working hard to try to figure out how to replace a lot of that income. And they're back. They're back, really. We're not gonna be back where we were before necessarily. We don't have the foot traffic yet, that kind of thing, but there is a lot of interest in the sales. They've also started working with a gentleman out of Tennessee. For those of you new, we talked about this last time, but for those of you new, they've started working with a gentleman out of Tennessee to monetize basically the leftovers, the stuff that they can't sell anyway, the stuff that, if they scan it, it doesn't sell on Amazon or that kind of thing. So they're working with this gentleman out of Tennessee, and pretty much what he does is he comes, loads up, takes all of the stuff that will otherwise go to solid waste to be recycled, and he takes it and scans it, and he goes, I think, first to Amazon and then to McKay's Used Bookstore, which there's a couple of locations in Tennessee. I think Knoxville is the one he works out of. And then they have a big recycling bin out back that everything gets shredded and recycled anyway, so if he can't do anything else with it, then he recycles it. So they've actually managed to monetize some stuff that a year or two ago we would just be sending with solid waste up to a facility in North Carolina to shred and recycle. So these don't end up in the landfill no matter what we do, but at least they do, they get shredded and they get recycled. But he's actually been able to monetize a little bit more some of the stuff they otherwise wouldn't have been able to do anything with. So that's also been a big plus. They were able to, with the money that they got from the CARES Act, they are gonna fund summer reading again this year, a goodly portion of summer reading, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, and you might have also read in Ms. Arnold's report about, the things that they're gonna be doing. And they have funded wish list items again for each of the branches, which is a nice supplement to our regular budget, to be able to buy a few extra things for the branches for, patrons or for programs or, something like that. We're still not really having in-person programs yet, but, we are doing things like some of the other, virtual things and all that. We'll get into that later on, but as far as the Friends are concerned, they are going to be able to help us out with those, things, with the wish list and with summer reading. So they're plugging right along and they're doing everything they possibly can to get the money for us. Some of them also used to volunteer in the library itself, and a couple of them are actually back, now with the prevalence of vaccines and that kind of thing. Some of them are actually back volunteering for us in the library as well. So, we're definitely grateful for what the Friends are doing, and they're doing wonderful stuff for us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, and I think we can all say, please continue to give our thanks to those volunteers and the group that leads Friends on our behalf and all they do to support.
Will do.
For our committee reports, we do not have standing members of committees at this point in time, so unless anyone has an update they would like to say about any specific topic? No?
And
Where
I
do
will
we,
say too,
no, I was just gonna ask, where do we stand? We talked the last time about possibly suspending that.
well, I was gonna point out that there is an actual agenda item a little bit later on under new business where we'll talk about the committees and whether y'all wanna continue them, how you wanna do it, if we wanna actually update the bylaws to, not have as many or not have them or whatever. That is an item on the agenda for a little bit later on, and you're welcome to talk about it now, but, that is an item a little bit later on the agenda.
Okay, perfect. We will discuss it when we get there. That's perfect. The chairman's report, I will just highlight, hopefully you all received the material that Blair and his team pulled together that recaps everything. The two components from that I wanted to highlight. There will be a staff service day for Blair's team. Traditionally, those are held twice a year, and usually the library does close and it's kind of an all-staff service. This year, it is my understanding, Blair, that it will not be that way. It'll be virtual. So just be aware that that is coming up in April and is a great way that Blair's staff gets some additional training and time together. And then I also hope everyone noticed that the Salem branch mentioned they were doing some vaccine sign-up outreach. I think it's important to acknowledge that a lot of our community technology lies in Blair and the library's building. So I imagine that's happening in a lot of places, whether it's specifically reported that way or not. So just wanted to say thank you to Blair and his team for assisting our community with that component as well. That is all I have for the chairman's report. So we will turn it to the director's report to you, Blair.
Okay, thank you. And I will keep it brief for sure, but I do want to highlight just a couple of things. You mentioned the vaccine outreach. I'm also on the Health Disparities Committee of the Healthy Oconee Coalition. It's kind of a mouthful. But we have actively been, in fact, we just met on Monday, yesterday, and we are really looking at ways, and actually Nivea is a part of that group as well, and we're really looking at ways to get information out to people, particularly in some of our underserved areas, the Hispanic community, African American community, rural communities, to try and get information out to them about the vaccines. I will say that during that meeting, we talked a little bit about some mobile clinics and that kind of thing. I did offer the bookmobile as at least an office for them if they can't necessarily use it. We're not gonna want anybody on board necessarily, but they could set up a table outside, do the vaccines if they need. They would have the Wi-Fi and the electricity from the generator and all that kind of thing. They may have some special requirements as far as refrigeration and stuff that we can't handle, and we're still kind of talking about that. But I did offer them the bookmobile, and if they want to do it on a Saturday, I'm perfectly willing to go and drive myself. That's no problem. Obviously, we're not gonna try to do it when our bookmobile manager, Brenda Lee, has regular routes and that kind of thing, but if it's something where they could offer it on a weekend and they wanna use the bookmobile, I've told them, have bookmobile will travel. So, it's a great mobile office, pretty much.
I was wondering if the Healthy Oconee Commission has reached out to the Opportunity Zone group that's working in Oconee right now as well, because they're working with Clemson University on health disparities. And I think it might be an opportunity to partner maybe with something that they're doing. And that would kind of enhance both.
I'll check with Misty Lee. She's with DHEC here in Oconee County, and she's the one who's the chair of that committee of the larger, Healthy Oconee Coalition. I know they have reached out to Seneca River Association and some of the other, I think we're terming it gatekeepers, but people that, know a lot of people and have information. She hasn't specifically mentioned, though, the folks that are working with Opportunity Zones, so, when we have our next meeting, which I think is April 5th, yeah, oh, and I'm sorry, Monica's also on that group, or has been participating with that group.
I'll send you guys the name of the contact
Please
person.
do,
the
yeah,
opportunity.
just email that to me, and I'll make sure Misty and the group gets it, so that that's another opportunity, because really, we are actively looking for ways to get the word out to people, and get, a lot more, folks to get vaccinated than have so far.
Right,
And we clearly understand a lot of the reasons why, and I know it's a personal decision, nobody is gonna tell people you must get it, but, just to reach out to some of these communities that may not trust it as much, or may not be able to get as much information, or through transportation or other problems, may not be able to actually get to it, to get to the hospital, or get to Ingalls, or wherever they're doing it. So that's one of the real purposes, so yeah, if you'll give me that information, I'll make sure to pass that on to the group.
okay, I'll send it out
Misty
to you.
and to also, Heather Gray is with the hospital, so, get information to them, that means I get it right to Prisma as well. So, yeah, we will definitely, if they haven't thought about them yet, they haven't specifically mentioned them in the meeting, so that's something I think it's another group that we can reach out to. So again, as I mentioned, we have, offered the bookmobile, we are putting up the signage, DHEC has ordered a couple of bigger, standing, like 6-foot signs or whatever, we're gonna have one in the lobby at the Ohio Library. We are putting up their flyers and working actively with, some of our staff is gonna get training from Prisma to help like navigate MyChart and that kind of thing, so we'll also be doing, some of that if we can assist. I mean, we still have our normal kind of policies and rules in place about privacy and things, so it's not like we're gonna sit down and actually help them sign up, but we will, walk them through the process. It's a little easier than it was with VAMs because they don't necessarily have to have an email. They can get a hold of Prisma and get a MyChart account, even if they're not regular patients of, any of Prisma's, doctors or the hospital or, whatever. So we will also be trying to get some training with them to be able to assist people to help out with MyChart. Because as the phases come along and more people are eligible, I know we'll get many more requests from folks, to, have assistance with that. So we definitely wanna be at the forefront of that and let people know that we're doing that and that kind of thing. So we will be promoting that, very actively. I will also mention too, we had talked a little bit about what they were gonna, do with summer reading, so I can point out that we do have every intention, if things are continuing to sort of, go better as they have been and that kind of thing, we do have every intention, and hopefully you were able to read in Darcy's report, but we do have every intention of at least having some live programming this year. That is our goal. After last year where everything had to be virtual, now Darcy is still producing some of the virtual story times. If you're on our social media, you're seeing those. She's doing an outstanding job with that. And we're very proud of that, but our goal this year, and so we sought out and have gotten cooperation with the Performing Arts Center in Walhalla to allow us to have 2 of the live programs. One of them will be the Roper Mountain Science Center. This year's theme is animals. It's called Tales and Tales. And so this year's theme is animals. One will be the Roper Mountain Science Center, and the other is Safe Haven, which does animal rescue. So those are the 2 big programs that we are going to try to present over in the Performing Arts Center. And then she will also be trying to do regular in-person story times, which she has been doing for a while, and has pretty decent attendance at those. And, our meeting rooms are kind of small, but we've been able to space out and really, try to keep everything safe. Everybody wears their masks, of course. You're probably aware that the county did extend the mask ordinance for county facilities, all county buildings, which includes the libraries, until June 30th, or until the governor completely lifts the emergency order. There was a little confusion there because the governor had lifted the state mandate for state buildings. But, we've made it clear to our staff and any visitors that, mask ordinance for the county is still in place. So We are starting to kind of, it's nice, we are starting to kind of move just a little bit away from, COVID and trying to get a little more normal. So we're very much looking forward to, the summer reading program. And I think that kind of will help us also get a little bit more back to normal, because hopefully if things are continuing to go well, vaccines are going well, that kind of thing, that our intent is to try to get back a little more normal in the fall, and have like our Sunday hours at Walhalla again, because that's sort of tied to the school district. There was really no sense in opening up Sunday hours starting in April or May, when usually those Sunday hours stop the Sunday before Memorial Day anyway. So there was really no sense in doing that. The schools are just getting back to a little more normal, but we will be looking at, we started back our Saturday hours at our Walhalla branch, 9 to 1 every Saturday. We will be starting Seneca very soon. Just they are short of personnel right now. They are down 2 part-time, and we'll be losing a full-time to a maternity leave. So we're kind of being a little more careful with Seneca and not trying to overtax their staff by opening on Saturday, but we will. Our goal is to get them open on Saturday fairly soon, and then get back a little closer to our normal hours by summer, and then hopefully fall with the Sunday hours and that kind of thing. So I feel like we're kind of moving in the right direction. The staff, of course, is still following all the protocols, wearing our masks, even in the back areas, being careful, that kind of thing. I feel like we've been very fortunate that we've been able to limit the number of cases that the staff has had, and we pretty much are assured that anyone that has had it, they got it from a family member. We're really fortunate that we, have not seen spread within the library. So that, obviously we'll continue all of our protocols and that kind of thing in place. Those will be in place for a while, even once we are a little more back to normal. As far as service is concerned, we have not opened up our meeting rooms yet, but we are starting to talk about what that will look like. Right now, they're still full of furniture and stuff, and we're also looking at like what we want to replace in terms of the furniture. Stuff that maybe is not any upholstered and, all this kind of stuff, so it's easier to clean. And we kind of like more open spaces. Before it was, hey, shove as many tables in as possible, that kind of thing. So I have been talking with the various branch managers about, what we're gonna do, in terms of the furniture, down the road. And, then, as I say, we're kind of working on several different projects right now, some of which will be detailed, when we actually talk about, some of the new business. So, that's pretty much all I have to report right
Perfect, thank you. We will move on to old business. And Blair, I will ask when we go over these, if you don't mind, just giving a little extra background for our new members with each topic. But the first are the changes to the library card policy for those under the age of 18.
Well, and honestly, that was why I put it back on the agenda. This is something that the previous board, or previous board members passed back in summer, I believe it was, back in July. But, at the beginning of the pandemic, we would be getting a lot of emails from folks, the library is closed, hey, is there a way that I can at least sign up to get ebooks? So we did create a sort of a temporary sign-on. And what we've done since then is to go ahead and create a permanent way of being able to sign on. So if you only want an online card, you only want to borrow from our ebooks, e-audio books, our Canopy streaming video, our Flipster magazines, whatever, you can do that now. You can sign up online, and you receive a slightly different barcode number than what our standard barcode number is. And then if you ever want to convert it to a regular card, all you do have to do is you do have to come in then and show your ID, and you can go ahead and convert that online number, or OBR as we call it, online borrower registration, to a regular card number. And also, a couple of the staff were looking at, while all this was going on and education was in such turmoil and everything, we've known for a long time that there are some kids that, once they can drive for themselves and are a little more independent, maybe their parents aren't gonna come in and sign them up at the library. So we actually extended that online borrowing privilege to 14 to 17-year-olds. They don't have to have their parents' permission in advance to sign up. Because they're only borrowing electronic materials, it doesn't result in any fines or any of that kind of thing. We went ahead and made that happen. The board did pass it last year, and we were working on implementing it, working on just getting all the nuts and bolts worked out. In the meantime, we had heard from Overdrive that they had this thing called SORA, SORA, which would allow the students in Oconee County to borrow ebooks and all with their school ID. We would coordinate with their database and our database, and we wouldn't have to worry about doing, so we kind of put the card for the students on hold. We still were getting, we're still getting the online borrowers from the adults, but we kind of put the student one on hold until we knew what was gonna happen with that. Sadly, only one of the high schools ever signed on to it, West Oak. Some of the other ones had talked about doing it and it never happened, so then we reinvented, if you will, or got back to doing this card. So now it is available, it is out there. What happens is, especially if someone between 14 to 17 signs up for one of these cards, Ms. Arnold sends out a postcard to the parent that says, hey, your child has signed up for this card. So you know about it, and then if you want to convert it to a regular card and give them particular privileges in the library or whatever, all you do have to do is come in with them, sign up for it, show your ID, and you can get it. But this will allow students then to have access to our ebooks, which we do buy the award books, and we do try to coordinate with the schools for whatever their summer reading is and that kind of thing, so we do buy those titles as well. So this does give the students access, and even though we are switching from Overdrive to Cloud Library, they will still have that access, as well. So that's what that is about, and that is actually live now. We have sent that out, and Darcy, Ms. Arnold is actually, coordinating with a lot of the media specialists. So we are doing that now, and then she'll just look them over and make sure they do live in the county, they do follow all the rest of our rules in terms of you have to live, work, or own property in Oconee County, or your parents have to, or whatever. So she does go through all of the new registrations from the online card and make sure that, people are following all the rest of our rules. And then they do have that access. And if they ever wanna convert it to a regular card, they have that opportunity. So that's what that was about, and that is live and up and running now, so, just wanted to give you all an update about that.
So that's brilliant, actually. That's brilliant, because that also captures the virtual South Carolina kids and the homeschool kids.
Right.
That's brilliant. Well done.
Thank you, I will definitely pass that on.
I think it's a great idea. I do have a question, though. If we're already vetting them on, whether or not they their parents own property or live or reside in Oconee County, could we just give them a regular membership through online? Would that be possible? Or regular library card where you could sign up for it online, like, you do Netflix or anything like that? I don't know what y'all's thoughts are on that, but I think it would be nice to be able to, if you were a child under the age of 18 years old and you wanted to get a library card, you can't get a ride to the library, you could go online, register for it, fill out a form, and be able to get that library card without having to, come in.
Well, that's what it does. They have access to all the electronic materials. It gives them access to Canopy, which is streaming video. It gives them even that's why we send out the postcard and let the parents know, okay, they have access to all this material. If you think there's anything objectionable, then, you can say, okay, I don't want my kid to do this or whatever, but they already have access to all the online materials.
But in order to get a regular library card, their parents have to come in, correct?
Correct, if they wanna come in, because then it results in them taking out physical items that could have a fine and that kind of thing, and then that's financial obligation, which that gets back into making contracts, and also, you do have to be 18, so they do have to have their parents physically sign up for a card if they wanna check out live materials, DVDs, audiobooks, physical books, whatever. They do have access to all the online materials automatically with this new online borrowing thing. Just if they do wanna come in and take physical materials, they do have to have that parent sign up for it because of the financial obligation involved.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
When they do sign up, are they notified that their parents will be receiving a postcard?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all in, there's all the stuff that's like at the very first disclaimer stuff, parents will be sent a card, so it's not like they're signing up for a card and they think, oh, my parents will never find out. No, it's made clear to them when they get on the online borrower thing, if you're 14 to 17, your parents will receive a postcard from the library saying you've signed up for this.
Okay.
Awesome. Some additional parking lot background and updates compared to what Kyle told us. Mostly background, I think.
Okay, just very, very quickly, the library, it was probably a little earlier than Mr. Reed said. I wanna say it was probably in late 16, early 17, the county acquired a lot of property, that is, adjacent to the parking lot, the main parking lot at the Walhalla Library. It's across Westview Street, which is the side street. The library is actually bordered on the sides by South Broad Street and Westview Street. And then the property directly across from Westview Street, that's sort of also across from this big white house that they broke up some of that property there. The library actually acquired that property, or rather the county acquired that property back, again, I wanna say 2016 or 2017. With the intention of creating several staff spots for parking so that we could free up all of the parking spaces for the public, especially when we have big programs and that kind of thing. And then once we got talking about getting it done, that's where it ran into all these things that Mr. Reed detailed in terms of, getting the permitting from City of Walhalla, South Carolina Department of Transportation, the whole thing. So their initial plan was to avoid a lot of runoff on Westview Street. They wanted to have us cut in on Chestnut. Chestnut crosses our parking lot on the other side, from the library. And then, of course, it's Pine Street on the back side of the library that borders our other property. So they wanted to cut in on Chestnut Street right there, but the problem was, of course, as Mr. Reed pointed out, if you've been down that portion of Chestnut, there's all those big oak trees, and there's some, like a cedar tree and a couple other things in the lot. And when it was pretty much decided that all of that would have to go for the sight lines to be able to see all the way down to the intersection on, I forget what that little road is off of Chestnut, but anyway, the city balked at it and said, we don't wanna lose all that. So that kinda got into the wrangling of how all this was going to work, and then, as Mr. Reed mentioned, in the meantime, they re-explored all this with Department of Transportation, and it looks like they will offer, to give us an encroachment on Westview. It will require some additional engineering, so that's something that he and I are gonna have to talk about. The board had previously paid out of, a fund that we've had for a long time called the Sarah Mills Norton Fund. The board had previously paid for some of the engineering, but I'm kinda hoping that, we can do that a different way than having to, so that's something that will probably come up in a future board meeting. It wasn't on the agenda tonight, so I didn't wanna go beyond just, an update. But as he and I have more discussions, and as I know how the rest of that's gonna work, I will present that to you folks. And if there's any action items that we need to do, I will bring that up at a future meeting.
Do you have any questions about the parking?
But the intent there is to provide about, at any, like, the total staff at the Walhalla Library, if everybody was there at once, and that's very rare with our part-time and people coming and going and that kind of thing, it's about 19. And I think we were looking at providing 18 spaces, and it's gonna be permeable, it's gonna be a gravel lot, so we could avoid having a retention pond and too much other runoff and that kind of thing. So it's gonna be a gravel lot, so water will, drain into that. And it'll be the very front portion of that property that's at the corner of Westview and Chestnut. And then at some point in time, the library has an opportunity to do something else with a lot of the rest of that property. We've tossed around ideas about having maybe some sort of a gazebo or something put up for programs, and since we're gonna have to run electricity through parts of it to have lights for safety in the parking lot, we may also be able to do something with, having electricity out there, so the place where we can have more outdoor programming and everything when it comes time. It would have been nice to have some of that during COVID, but, timing being what it is, we're not gonna argue with that. But, it does sound like we are finally making a little more progress, so once I've had a chance to talk to Mr. Reed a little bit more, and he has a chance to talk with the engineers and stuff, then I will report back to you all, where we are on that. And, optimistically, it sounds like we could have something by summer.
I've got a question on the parking lot. I'm sorry, I always talk about this parking lot here. But if we're only doing 18 to 19 spots, have we looked into, because I know the city of Walhalla on South Catherine Street just recently converted it to one-way with angled parking on that to save us money on engineering and the actual cost of the parking lot. And if we wanted to use it as outdoor space, and I'm just, I'm very much like, I love outdoor spaces and I don't like parking lots. I know this is a parking lot we need, but, I just feel like, there's a lot of parking lots around and it's always nice to use property otherwise. Could we possibly talk with the highway department about converting that state street there? I mean, there's only one other encroachment off that street. Everything else has access on Broad Street and off of Pine Street to a one-way with angled parking. And we could probably pick up, I would say 18 to 19 spots and have essentially no cost on putting in a parking lot there.
Yeah, that's just something I would have to ask Mr. Reed about. I do know, as you mentioned, there is one residential lot adjacent to our property and right across from the side, the Westview side of the library, where those folks would obviously still, need access. So I don't know I'd have to talk to Mr. Reed about that. But I will bring that up to him.
Perfect. Blair, can you give us an overview of the options we have related to updating the bylaws and to the committee designations so we can discuss?
Okay, concerning updating the bylaws and committee assignment designations, they, according to the bylaws, I mean, it basically does say, committees shall be appointed by board chair who shall name one member of each committee as chairman. And standing committees are finance, building and grounds, policy and personnel, public relations. And then, at some point, we did add the, capital projects, and I think that one was kind of added back when all the discussion first came up about building the new Seneca Library. So they added capital projects. So that's not in my copy of the bylaws, but that's one that was added, 10 years ago, probably. Longer, no, I'm sorry, probably almost 20 years ago now that was probably added, in there. Or it would have been, the last update was, 2008, at least a copy of bylaws I have, so it was probably around that time or before, that was added, so. Anyway, if, there has been discussion among the members that since, we aren't doing a lot of special projects right now and that kind of thing, did you want to change the bylaws to not have them, or did you want to change the designations of them, like maybe you don't need all these committees? And that is something that you all can certainly talk about. Whether you want to update them to have none, or if you want to continue to have them and just, have different ones or whatever. I mean, if you feel, I guess the idea of having committees was that way individual board members, it wasn't just always like a big board meeting and that was it. Individual board members could follow up on some of these various things like, finance or policy, personnel, building and grounds, whatever. And just that be, the individual committee's first thing, and then they could bring it to the main board. Sort of like our county council does have a transportation committee or whatever committee. But that's up to you all. If you do want to, change the bylaws, you could certainly do that.
I feel that I'm a new member, but you cover everything. I mean, I feel like I wouldn't even know where to begin. I don't have the contacts that you have. I don't have the information you have. Not to put it all on you, but I mean, I wouldn't even know what to do
Right.
on a committee here.
Well, and to make any official change, of course, we would have to put that on the agenda, so we would have to have an amendment to the bylaws and put that on the agenda. I'm just bringing up the topic, and that's why we could put it under the old business, because we had talked about it before, and it merited further discussion, so that's why, it's available to you all to talk about. And certainly, a true amendment to the bylaws, that would have to be put on the agenda, enumerated as, hey, we're gonna amend the bylaws to be this. So we wouldn't necessarily vote on that tonight, but you could vote to say, we want a commission to study this, or, whatever. I mean, in terms of the fact of, you may wanna appoint a smaller group of you to say, this is a subcommittee to examine the committees, or that kind of thing, and several of you get together virtually and or however you wanna do it, and discuss, do we still need them? What, what do you wanna do, whatever, I mean, I think you could reasonably do that tonight based on that this agenda item is about updating that stuff. And then we could put together an amendment if you wanted to the bylaws that we could have and pass at the next meeting.
I have a question, a couple of questions. First of all, I think as a new member as well, I would need to have a definition of the responsibilities of each one of these committees before I could even make a call as to whether or not they're needed. Secondly, how effective have these committees been in the past?
Well, for the most part, I mean, I'll just be honest with you, as far as like the finance committee, for instance, I mean, pretty much now, the library does receive several different income streams. Obviously, we have our local, funding that we get from the county. That's pretty much a fixed number. I mean, the board can certainly say, hey, we'd like to have this, or we'd like to have that, but I mean, it's ultimately up to county administration and county council to pass our budget each year. So the bulk of library funding that comes, particularly for most home personnel, operations, building maintenance, all that kind of stuff comes from the county. You have input there, but ultimately, it's up to the, county council. We also do have, an income stream from state aid that we spend pretty much along the same categories or same lines that we do, like we have a portion of state aid for books, we have a portion of state aid for operations, we have a portion of state aid for data processing and these kind of things. So most of our state aid is spent in about the same broad categories as what we do with our local funds. So some of it goes to books, some of it goes to operations. None of the state aid really goes to personnel. That's all covered by local money. And then we do have our gifts from the Friends. We do have, some other special monies that come in from time to time. And you all are certainly, over that. I mean, by definition, by the bylaws and things, you all have control over those monies. Like, I'm gonna come tell you if I'm gonna spend anything out of the MEMS money, that kind of thing. But as far as finance is concerned, we do have a secretary treasurer now because we put those together at the last meeting. But I mean, as far as finance, I'm not sure. That again, I think was mainly in terms of if we ever did have a foundation or money coming in other than, bigger gifts, that kind of stuff. Policy and personnel, I mean, you all do oversee our library policies and pass new policies that, staff will recommend to you and that kind of thing. Building and grounds, I mean, that for the most part has been just making sure, following up on any projects that we might be having a little difficulty getting done, either through the community or through other resources. Community relations, a lot of that has to do mainly with like when we are doing something bigger, like a capital campaign or, that kind of thing. And then, of course, again, capital projects, there's really nothing sadly on the horizon. I will say too that, a lot of this was just, again, a particular board member might have an interest in that. Like, okay, I'm really interested in making sure that we get the libraries cleaned up and looking nice. So you could have that person on the committee and they go out and talk to the garden clubs, like what the folks that just did the Seneca Library or that kind of thing. But again, that is, they're only as effective as whoever's on it and what they want to pursue. But the purpose of each of these pretty much is just to break you all down into smaller groups. If you're a committee, then you don't have to have a quorum, that kind of thing all the time. You can work in a smaller group and that kind of thing. So I think the purpose there was just to have smaller work instead of always having to have 9 members of the board say what was going on. You would have these smaller groups that could work with the community or with the staff or whatever.
Okay, and with that, and I don't have an opinion yet, again, but it might be something, what I'm hearing, it might be something even that ad hoc committees could take care of as needed if we chose to do away with these
And
permanent
there
committees.
is provision, library board chair shall act as ex officio of each committee and shall appoint other committees of a temporary nature when necessary. You don't maybe have to have standing committees. You might be able to just have, you may wanna amend I'll have to check about all the rules about amending bylaws and stuff, but you know, if that's possible, you all might just wanna say, we'll invent standing committees when there's a necessity. You
I
know,
like
might
that.
be something, I'll double check
I like
with,
that.
I'll double check with Ms. Smith about, you know, rules for county, if there's any rules about, if this is just the board's doing, or if there's, you know, we don't wanna get in trouble with anything concerning, you know, how all boards and commissions are supposed to work. But I feel like, you know, this was probably put in place by previous boards to accomplish some things that maybe you wouldn't always need the full board for. So I'll double check with her on that, but yeah, I mean, it might be that one of the things we can do is simply say that if there are to be committees, they would be appointed when a need arises.
That would keep her from, because what I'm seeing, 5 groups, you got 5 more meetings within that 2-month period that have to take place. I'm sure you're looking forward to that. So, you know, I'm just thinking out loud here. If it's not breaking any rules, we might want to look at that as an option.
If I could comment though, I mean, because I've been an elected official in other communities for 16 years. And the reason you have this is so it isn't all on Blair's shoulders and we're just rubber stamping things. It's to get, there's 9 different people with 9 different opinions and viewpoints, and it allows you to learn a little bit more. So maybe as the chair, as you're appointing people for these committees, you might want to ask them, do you have a preference of an area that you might be interested in based on your own work or professional experience? And I hear what you're saying, Shelby, about meeting in between, but then you're bringing information to the board, this board meeting for us to act on, and the committee reports on it. So you might elect that they don't have to meet every other month. You know, maybe they just meet when they need to, but at least if something pops up in Blair's radar, he can suggest to the chair that she assign it to a committee. Does that any of that?
I hear you, but I think these committee titles aren't really relevant at this point. I hear you, I've been involved for a while as well. And I think we need to revisit, because Blair and Sue Andrus and a lot of people cover the information for these committees as of yet. So I don't know that we could add anything to those, but I do see moving forward with a lot of programs happening that we could, yes, that we could create specific committees to research or promote things going forward. I don't necessarily feel that these are relevant to us.
So you, like in my background, I've been an executive director for a number of agencies, worked for government agencies too. I can help you with some of those job descriptions and personnel policies, but you know what I mean, you wouldn't want to do that as the full 9-member board.
It's true, but Sue Andrus is handling that already.
Okay.
I mean,
But
that's,
that's just, again, I'm sorry, I'm too new to speak out this often, but I'm just saying that's one person's viewpoint when you can have multiple people's viewpoints, so we're just not in a tunnel vision.
I hear you, totally.
Okay.
I hear you, but I feel like a lot of what's in this report is coming from people that are in the library system themselves, and they're privy to more information than we are. I don't necessarily feel like we need to reinvent the wheel to catch up with what they're already aware of. So, that's, yeah.
I agree. I think it's important to always have board member involvement, always, but we're not in the library every day. We don't know what all happens from a day-to-day point of view. I think Blair does a good job informing us, of what happens in the library, but I think there should always be the option to create a committee if something comes up that we need to, get, board member involvement on. Having that option, having that versatility, absolutely ideal. But I agree. I think some of these, things, maybe we have, a committee or two, but some of the names that are on here for, what the committees do, we probably don't need.
Community relations is a good one. That can cover a lot.
I would suggest, Blair, that as you talk with Katie about the parameters for changing the bylaws, that it be all encompassing. Because if I heard you correctly, they haven't been revised since 2008. So if you're looking at 13 years without revisions to the bylaws, then there's probably, or could be, more that needs attention than just the committee structure. And so to approach this from the whole parameter of what can and cannot we do as it relates to bylaws.
Okay.
Because I would like to change chairman's to chairperson.
There,
Saying.
there is, I mean, really, I'll double check with her, but I mean, my feeling on it is that you all do have, within whatever structure the county provides as far as when boards are supposed to meet and your duties and that kind of thing. And I will also point out, this is not necessarily germane, but it's something I want to bring to your attention just very briefly, that I will be providing, I have been in discussion with the state librarian. They used to send somebody to do this and would have various sessions. They haven't done that in a long time, even before COVID, because of staffing and that kind of thing. But they do have a lot of resources available about, what boards do, how they're organized, that kind of stuff. So I need to get with them and find out if it's just online stuff, or if we could set up a virtual meeting with somebody from Columbia to do, and they might be able to help guide you in some of this stuff too, because I know, all of you have probably had experience on various community types of things, but I dare say for all but maybe two of you, this is your first time on a library board. So I think maybe some guidance from the state library also in terms of how these things should be worked out. But to your point about updating the bylaws, yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to just be the committees. I mean, other than some of the things that are, the purview of the county or the purview of the library system, whatever. I mean, you all are the legal, you have the legal responsibility for the library. So, if you decide to change other portions of the bylaws, if you want it to be updated and modernized, I believe with, making sure that we're following the rules that we need to in terms of public meetings and all that kind of thing or whatever, I think you do have wide latitude to change, a lot of these,
Well, there's a committee right there to work with you
bylaw.
and figure that out.
bylaw
There you go.
committee.
You want to do that one? I mean, seriously, that's,
I'm serious.
and you, I mean, that's, no, I hear, me neither.
So, it's been 13 years since it was updated. Why bring it up now? Like, what's the issue? Like, why do we have to go over it now if it's in 13 years, it stayed the same? Just the question.
Well, I mean, I'll just be the one to take the slings and arrows on this one. I think a lot of this one is my fault. Only because I know, gosh, what was it, a year or two ago, maybe longer? I mean, I think Elisa Southern was still board chair. But we, every time we go through the agenda is set by the bylaws that says, okay, when you have a meeting, the agenda is, approval of minutes, correspondence and communications, report of the director, report of the chairperson, report of the standing committees or special committees. That's also in the bylaws. So every time we have a meeting, we would say, okay, what are we doing? And even back when we actually had people appointed these committees, they would pretty much say, I have nothing to report. And I would dutifully write down in the minutes, they have nothing to report, and we would go on. So at some point in time, I know even previous boards had sort of brought up, do we want to do it? We sort of unofficially suspended them, that kind of thing. And so, like I said, this one is my fault, but this is why this one's been on the agenda the last couple of times, because I just kind of felt that, for y'all's sake and in terms of how the agenda runs even from meeting to meeting, if you wanted to have committees, then they probably needed to make sense. If you didn't want to have committees, then that was okay too, but that's, in order to do something with the committees, it did require updating the bylaws, so that's how we got to this point. So I don't know if it's better to just appoint somebody to each committee and we just say nothing happened, or if you actually want them to be effective. I mean, I'm probably saying too much as it is, because I'm simply the library director, I follow your directives. So, but the reason why this is on the agenda, honestly, and why it's gotten into talking about the bylaws and not simply the committees, is because the committees are a part and parcel of the bylaws, so if you
And
wanted to change
bylaws
them-
need to be reviewed.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, period.
Yeah.
I don't care what organization you are, your bylaws need to be reviewed at some point in time. So I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, so I think our next steps, Blair, if you could send the bylaws out to everyone, so we have time prior to the next meeting to all of us have reviewed them, because I don't know that we all sit and regularly read those. And also check in with Mrs. Smith and kind of let us know at the next meeting what our options are, if we have any limitations. And then we'll continue this discussion next time, hopefully with having reviewed those bylaws fresh in
And what
front
I
of
will
us as
do,
well.
and really should have already done, but with, so many changes happening so quickly, Nick's appointment actually, 2 weeks ago, not even 2 weeks ago?
Something like that,
His
a
appointment
little over 2
month
weeks.
ago, something like that. And that's no excuse, I should have gotten it to you by now, but my intention also with this training, usually in addition to the stuff that you all get from our county, in terms of just the very, very broad guidelines of, hey, thank you for being on a board or commission, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, these are Robert's rules, ta-da, is I also do send you a packet. And so I will be sending you these bylaws and some other information. There is a very small sort of handbook from the state library that also talks about library boards and what your responsibilities are and what you should be thinking about and what are some things you may not want to do and that kind of thing. I will get that out to you, but I guess I was just hoping to coordinate it also with training, and it sounds like I just need to get you the information first. And then when we can get training, if it's all online and I just send you a few links, or if I can actually get somebody from the state library to give us more specific training for us here in Oconee County, then I'll do that. But yes, I will work this week to create the packet that I normally would send to you all. It's been a while since we've had a full board, honestly. And with a lot of new members, I need to do that anyway. So I will make the bylaws a part of that, but I will send you sort of a package of information that includes the bylaws as well as some information from the state library. And I'll make it a priority to do that this week.
And the more you can send digitally for me, the better. I'm gonna tell you how many notebooks I have to keep up with.
That's what I can do, basically, I'll just send it as one PDF, just like I do the monthly background and information. So you'll have one PDF, cause I can just scan all this stuff at the library and I'll send it to you as one PDF so that you have 8 or 10 pages to look through as a PDF online. That way it doesn't matter about format, you can look at it on your phone, you can look at it on your tablet or whatever, and I'll make sure you get it electronically.
Thank you.
But go ahead with this board training, because it does beg the question, what is our role on this board?
Right.
And if you're not serving on committees that get people involved and that's how you could lose board members too, if they don't feel that they're involved in working. So, that's something to keep in mind.
Right, so probably should have actually even had that done before this board meeting, but I will definitely get that coordinated. But the packet I will make a priority to get out to you all this week. And then, as soon as I can coordinate maybe some actual training with the state library, if they're available to do it. Obviously we'd have to do it in smaller groups, it's not a forum, because even if we're doing it virtually, if all of us take the training at the same time, that's for all intents and purposes a meeting. And then we would have to be official record of that and that kind of thing, whereas I think if we can do the training in smaller groups, then you all can do that individually, and we're not violating any kind of open meeting laws, that kind of stuff. So, but regardless, I will get you all a packet of information that includes these bylaws and some of the other things from the state library. I'll make that a priority to get that to you this week.
Awesome. Thank you. I think we are good to move to new business. That's good with everything. And an update about the Seneca Library's exciting new roof and circulation desk.
Okay, and again, this is something that, for the couple of you that have been on the board a while, you're familiar with, but I just want to bring these things to your attention. 3 years ago, I guess, they had budgeted for a new roof on the Seneca Library. That roof on the Seneca Library has not been replaced since 1999. We've done about everything that we can it's a flat roof on a 1968 vintage building. So we've done about everything that we can to it in terms of drainage and whatever, and it still has issues. It has issues with the water pooling up there because it doesn't drain as well as it should, and it leaks, and it's got issues, and so, we've had parts of the collection, fortunately not a whole bunch, but we've had, books damaged, shelves wet, ceiling tiles, wet and stained and that kind of thing, so we did, convince them to do it, and then, So they're looking for bids and that kind of thing, and then along comes COVID and an EF3 tornado in Seneca. Well, everybody is building new houses or fixing places or putting roofs on things that got destroyed during the tornado or whatever, so kind of put us on the back burner for a while. But, of course, as Mr. Powell can definitely tell us, you know, costs for things have gone from the ridiculous to the unbelievable. So the initial 40 some odd $1,000 they had budgeted for that, I believe it was just this last county council meeting, they approved the 79,000 or whatever it is now, unfortunately nearly double, with the contingency, but they did approve a new roof for Seneca. I don't have the timetable for that yet, but they have, been over there looking at it. The county personnel have been up on the roof. So I'm assuming as soon as it gets nice enough that you can do something like that, they'll probably be doing it this spring. And go ahead and get that done. I think now that the bid has been done and the county council has approved the funding, I wanna say they have 90 days or something like that. I think that's what, Ms. Popham with the procurement told me, they have 90 days, to complete everything. So it's gonna happen relatively soon then, and, you know, we'll have to coordinate when that happens, and I think they told me that it's over a 2-week period. And so there'll be days where they'll just be removing materials and doing stuff up there, and we will have to close. And the intention of the contractor right now is to try and do anything that involves like the adhesive or anything that smells real bad or that kind of thing on a Saturday or a Sunday. So they won't, and, you know, we won't probably start their Saturday hours back as quickly. So hopefully, anything that has to be done up there that's gonna, you know, gas out the staff and patrons, we can do that when we're not open. And our hope is not to close really at all if we have to. The hope is that they can do the bulk of this work and we remain open. Whether that happens or not, you know, and I'll be, of course, letting you all know. I mean, if we have to close at any point, obviously, I will give you all notice that we're gonna have to do that. But my hope is, and in the way that Ms. Popham has let me know how they're gonna do it and everything, the hope is that they will be able to do any of that kind of work that might require us to close down on times that we're closed anyway. So the hope is that it's about a 2-week period, and the hope is that they'll be able to get it done and everything will work, and we won't have to close down for like a whole day or something like that.
Are they replacing it with another flat roof?
Yes.
So that's my next question. I've lost track of the timeline and the luxury tax and all that stuff. And we have a new county council, about getting a new building for the Seneca Library.
And I'll be honest with you, I think that's maybe why we waited so long to see about a new roof, because I think for the longest time, the hope was there of a new Seneca library. I don't know, you know, particularly right now with COVID and a lot of the other things that are going on, if there is any desire on the part of our officials to want to commit to that kind of thing. I don't know if they have plans anytime soon for another referendum on a penny sales tax. At the time that happened in 2014, those of us on the staff sort of felt like that was the only way we were ever going to get one. I don't know if that is still the case. I have had several discussions with various county council members about, you know, could we be part of some other project, business incubation, community center of some kind, and us be part of that. So, and Mr. Kane, if you looked at the little profiles that were in the Seneca Journal, if you ever look at the Seneca Journal, I don't know whether you do or not, but they had a little profile of each member after they had that, why can't I think of the word?
Retreat?
The retreat, thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
I do read it, so
Yeah,
yeah.
after they had the retreat, they did have each member's sort of a profile and the things that they were interested in doing. And fortunately, Mr. Kane, who is the representative for Seneca, did specifically mention he still wants to see a new library in Seneca. Now, I realize saying that is not, you know, finding funding or, you know, that kind of thing. But I do think that, you know, people understand that that's still a big need.
Yeah.
How that happens is, I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's above my pay grade, because obviously when we get to that point, I'll be involved in it very heavily. But, you know, it is probably way above my pay grade to decide who's gonna come up with the cold hard cash for an $8, a $9, a $10 million building, or a $5 million building, or whatever, you know, whatever our portion of a building might be, if they have some space downtown or on that lot itself again, or whatever. I mean, that's the, I will say too that, as far as, since that question has come up, the state library has made us aware that in a lot of these new federal, things that are coming, this has not been passed yet, but there is a possibility for some federal money to build libraries. And South Carolina would get a portion of that, and then, you know, libraries that have projects that need done could try to apply for that. So, we did apply, let's say, back in, I wanna say it was 2009, 2010, for stimulus money back during the Obama administration with the USDA. We got so far, but unfortunately, we're not one of the finalists. So, you know, now if there is money out there to build, new libraries, or even if in this funding stream, we're not as far as some library systems in South Carolina, and we can't get actual money for building, but we could get money for actual plans and that kind of thing, so that it would give our elected officials something more to work with than just, you know, one or two drawings and a concept. So if it was even possible for us to get funding from some of that money to do drawings and come up with plans and, you know, give us something concrete, that would be something. So I'll certainly keep up with that, and the state librarian will keep us updated on that. If that passes, we'll definitely do what we need to do to apply through the state library to get some of that money.
Yeah, because I think it's we need to be progressive about this and realize that our libraries are so much more relative now than they used to be. Not just as a resource, because we're either online or doing homeschool or virtual South Carolina or whatever, but they're community centers.
Right.
And they're huge. We can re-envision them in so many wonderful ways.
And, you know, yeah, we've dealt with it for over a year now, but COVID is short term. Our hope is that our libraries are long term.
Yeah.
Honestly. And it may look different after COVID, and our furnishings and some other things, we know we're gonna be different, but yeah, our hope is that once we're kind of past this, that we are able to be that community involved again. And, you know, we've still maintained some community involvement with things like the South Oconee Coalition and, that kind of thing. We try to maintain, good relationships with our community partners anyway. But yeah, we look forward to the day when some of this stuff is beyond, we can actually get back to, really getting out there and placing the library sort of at the center of the community again as it needs to be.
Cool.
Do you have a desk update as well?
We have been trying to get a new circulation desk, a new service desk in Seneca now for a little while. And for those of you that aren't up on the history of that, Betty DuBose was the longtime librarian, was the librarian when the Seneca Library was actually the town library before it ever became part of the county system. When they renovated that 1968 vintage building in about 1985, the county helped with funding, and the deal was the county would take it over and it would be part of the county library system. And then she was the librarian there for a while longer. She passed away last year, maybe we'll be almost 2 years now, I guess, of pre and post COVID. So anyway, we have been working with the Friends of the Library and with Mrs. DuBose's family foundation to construct a new circulation desk for the Seneca branch. We have the design in, we have the people that are doing it, they are currently building it. It was slated to be done sometime this month. There were some delays because, again, of all this with COVID and materials and whatever, so there were some delays of them getting components from their vendors. Right now, we're looking at probably sometime, maybe we're hoping late April. But, and I will actually be the Friends, they wanna have a small ceremony once we're able to kinda have people in one place again. They wanna have a small ceremony, and I know, they would like you there, as the board chair, but also other board members as well. So I'll be getting more information about it. It may not happen right as after they install it, because of course, you know, we don't know where we'll be with COVID, but at some point, they wanna have a dedication. This will be dedicated to Ms. DeBose for her longtime service to the Seneca Library, and of course, her family's foundation is paying for the bulk of it along with the Friends. So we think as far as the physical installation of it, the ceremony may happen later, but we think physical installation of it, we're hoping sometime late April. That's where we are right now.
Thank you.
They are actively building it, and so hopefully we'll have that in before summer reading, that's our goal. And then we're gonna be working on the one for the Walhalla branch next. We have a drawing on that one, we have, that one, we have to handle it a little bit differently, because it's a different pot of money that we are gonna be taking out of, but, the Walhalla one is next. Westminster one got one from the Friends 2 years ago, I think. So they currently have a fairly new service desk. Seneca will have their new service desk this year, and then I'm hoping, depending on how it all goes and getting bids and all that kind of stuff, I'd like to have Walhalla's done by the end of the year. I know that may be a little optimistic, but by the end of the calendar year, I'm hoping to have.
And since Salem, the city of Salem owns that building, right?
Well, the city of Salem does own the building. We have rights to be able to change furnishings inside the library. And I did talk with the Salem manager about if we wanted to do one in Salem also, but he and I sort of agreed that the desk there really isn't too bad, it just needs refinishing. They actually like the physical layout and function of the desk. So whereas the other branches, we really needed to modernize and update because those desks are from either the sixties or the seventies. The one in Seneca is probably from the renovation, if not even earlier than that, so the eighties. And then our two libraries in Walhalla and Westminster were built and opened in 1979. Salem has been a tenant of that one room in Town Hall since 1981. But I think, at least right now, we may change that around. If we start looking at other furnishings there and there and everything, we may get them a new desk. But right now, his hope, the manager there, his hope was to just get the one they have refinished.
Cool.
So that the veneer on it and everything looks nice again. But, I mean, we have the option of replacing that if we want, because we can, as long as we don't change anything physically in that room, like the windows or whatever, we do have option to change furnishings and that kind of stuff in there if we want to. So certainly not that we're leaving Salem out, it's just that at some point in time, he had said he was happy with the footprint of the desk and that kind of thing, he just wanted to have it refinished. So that's what we've been going on now, but, you know, I think maybe after they get a look at everybody else getting a new, maybe they'll want, you know, a new desk rather than just simply replacing the other one. So, I mean, that, we have that option, we definitely have that option.
And lastly, an update about continued operations under COVID protocols.
Well, as I mentioned, starting, our intention was to start back with Saturday hours at the beginning of the calendar year. And as you all know, then cases spiked after the holidays, and so that was put aside. We did resume our Saturday hours at our Walhalla branch starting March 11th, whatever the first Saturday after the first week, anyway. But the first Saturday there after the first week of March, we did resume our Saturday hours in Walhalla. That's 9 to 1 on Saturday, and then we have opened up our study rooms. We have 2 8x8 study rooms at our Walhalla branch, and we have 2 8x8 study rooms that we installed this last year in our Seneca branch back in 2020. We have opened those study rooms now for limited use. Again, we have not opened our meeting rooms yet. That'll probably be one of the very last things we do because, one, they're still full of furniture, honestly, and also then having larger groups gathering, even though the governor has lifted the thing where more than 250 people can gather without a permit. You know, obviously still social distancing and masking is being touted by our CDC and by DHEC. And so probably, we're following along with a number of other libraries in South Carolina. Directors in South Carolina are automatically all part of what's called SCAPLA, South Carolina Association of Public Library Administrators. So we all talk very regularly about what services our libraries are offering and how we need to proceed to do things. And so we probably will not have our meeting rooms open right now conservatively until fall, honestly. I don't see it happening there just because, again, you know, having larger groups meeting in there, increasing our foot traffic, so exposing the staff to more. You know, if the vaccines are getting out there quickly and more of the staff is able to get vaccinated, certainly we've been able to ease up, like I said, with our study rooms, our Saturday hours. We'll get our Saturday hours back at Seneca just as soon as we can get a few more staff members there hired. That's been a little bit of a problem too because of COVID, because honestly, our temporary staffing agency that supplies all our part-timers, they've been having trouble getting applicants because with, you know, unemployment being extended and that kind of thing, I think it's, people aren't looking for jobs right now if they can, you know, if they can stay home. And that's, I'm not trying to be political, I'm just saying that we were told by Staffmark, which is our staffing agency, that they were having some trouble getting applicants, not just for our openings at Seneca, but for a lot of their jobs. So I'm just passing that along. Like I said, I'm not trying to get political, I'm just passing that along. And so, you know, we want to get Seneca staffed up, and once we can do that to where it's not such a big strain on the existing staff that's there, so it just puts them more exposed, we'll resume our Saturday hours there as well. Our Saturday hours at our Westminster branch, the way that branch is set up, they have to share staff with the Salem branch. So again, not having two different groups of people working with each other, Saturday hours in our Westminster branch may also have to wait until the new school year. Just because of that reality that those different staff members would have to work with each other. We've kind of tried to keep each individual staff. That's another reason, as you mentioned earlier in the meeting, about going back to virtual again for our in-service this one last time, I hope. Hopefully by fall we'll have one in person. But it just to keep, you know, everybody's kind of been in their own bubbles, and the only people that pretty much see everyone are myself and the library courier. That's about it. So each individual staff, sure, they're seeing the public and that kind of thing, but we do have the sneeze guards, we do have the masks, we do have, you know, so as far as the staff's working more closely among each other, we have tried to keep each individual branch in its own bubble, if you will. So probably a little longer on Saturday hours at our Westminster branch. Otherwise, we feel pretty good about what we've been able to do. We look at a lot of other libraries in the state and the numbers of cases that they've had and everything else, and we feel good about the things that we were able to do and the services that we were able to provide and are still able to provide even during a pandemic. Whether it's the online cards, whether it's the kits, whether it's some of the other things that we have that we've been doing, the virtual programming and stuff. And sure, we're looking forward to getting back to a little bit more normal. I think summer reading is going to be big for us because that does give us the chance to finally do some live programming again. I mean, the Performing Arts Center has been doing concerts since last summer, so they've figured out all the social distancing and everybody going in one way and going out the other way and that kind of thing. So we're very much looking forward to partnering with them. And even after COVID, that sounds like that's going to be a partnership for us that's going to continue. So I don't know that we've been the most ready to get back to normal as maybe some of the libraries in South Carolina have been, but we also haven't had to pull back. I feel very good that we've been able to maintain all of our branches open, maybe one or other closing briefly for a COVID, you know, positive, but we've been able to stay open since June 15th. So I'm pretty proud of that, and I'm pretty proud of the staff for looking out for each other, keeping each other safe, and following the protocols, even when it's a pain in the behind. And I feel really good about, you know, what they've been able to accomplish. So I'm just very proud of this staff for what they've been able to do.
Does anyone have any questions, concerns, thoughts? Does anyone have any additional new business that needs to be discussed?
No, just publicly thank you, Blair, for everything that you and your staff are doing. I think it's amazing, and given the conditions that we're all working in right now, hats off to the library and the library staff.
Thank you, and I will pass that along to them for sure. They get a copy of these draft minutes as soon as I get them written up and stuff, and I will include that in there, and thank you very much. Like I said, they've done a remarkable job, and they keep each other safe, and it makes my job pretty easy, so, you know, I'm just hats off to, you know, whether it was our circulation staff, whether it's Darcy that's done so much of this, and then her assistant DJ that's done so much of this virtual programming, our managers coming up with inventive programs and things, virtual book clubs, the kits, the other things that they've been trying to do to keep the public engaged. I'm super proud of this group. I really am, so thank you.
Wonderful. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Do we
So
have
moved.
a second?
Second.
Perfect. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Thank y'all for being